We have 6 more presentations planned for today, starting with our very own CTO, Greg Markou. Greg will be speaking about the future of Web3.js. Greg, why don't you turn on your camera and mic and join me on the main stage? Hey, Greg, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. The stage is yours.
Awesome. Just give me a moment here. Somehow I got left with doing Twitter and YouTube today, so just making sure it's all set up. Awesome. Cool. Welcome, everybody. Thanks again, Dustin, for putting this all together, and the rest of the crew at ChainSafe party planning committee that made this a reality. I'm super excited to kind of talk about one of our newer Ethereum ecosystem projects that we're contributing to and maintaining, Web3.js, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit, details a little bit of that a little bit. And today I'm here to talk to you guys about the future of Web3.js and where we're planning to take it. So quickly, a little bit about me. Camera's awful. Basically, I'm the co-founder, one of the co-founders and CTO at ChainSafe. My background, I didn't really come from a CS background, economics guy, but started doing development. And one of the first things I really did in Ethereum was work on forks of Geth for some clients and stuff. And then from there, my passion for like DevX and UX in general really took over. And that's kind of where I spent a lot of my time, especially in the ecosystem. I've done like little things like, add Control S to Remix so that it auto compiles your code and doesn't save the web page to your desktop, and little things like that. Spent a lot of time building dev tools, and so like truffle plugins and things like that. Just things that help make our lives better at ChainSafe, and know that it help make other people's lives a lot easier too. So that's why it's super exciting when, when we eventually started working on Web3.js, because it's, as you'll get to find out if you don't already know, it's, one of the most used packages in the NPM or the Node ecosystem, and used by developers every day. So a little bit about Web3.js, get into that, and then kind of talk about our plans for where we're going to move it. So for those that don't know, Web3.js has about over 150,000 weekly downloads. We are peaking about 200 back in October and averaging about 180 right now. And again, that's weekly, and it takes up a lot of time to make sure that, we got to get these builds out, that they're right and stable. So it's exciting, but also a little bit terrifying. And we also have 2,632 dependencies dependents as of yesterday. So that's like projects using Web3 that are published on NPM. It seems like a low amount for the amount of downloads, but one of the main reasons is like we're the backbone to a lot of the truffle libraries, Ganache, and basically a lot of like developer tools actually use Web3.js under the hood, which is why basically where we get a lot of our downloads from. So whenever you do like npm install, Ganache core, you're pulling in Web3.js at the same time, just part of the dependency tree. So there's a lot of people relying on us, and it's important for us to take care. Yeah, briefly, just like for those that don't know about Web3.js, kind of like basically it was there at the beginning, 2015. A bunch of the early guys built it and started maintaining it. In about 2018, someone who's here, I think, Samuel, he started, really doing some intense refactors because the code base is old, it's clunky. And he also started kind of forming out what would be the vision for Web3.js version 2, kind of pulling it out of that endless pre-V1 state. Later on, Nomic Labs came in to really help stabilize the repository. Again, like old repo comes with a lot of baggage, and they eventually did that. And a year later, we came in back in about June, I believe, of 2020 to basically help take it off of the EF's hands and really just start developing, pushing it forward in a smooth path. And I'll get into kind of why we did that and like what made, why we're taking it over and why it's important to us. So kind of like what's next? Few things. One, TypeScript. TypeScript's super important to us. As Cayman talked about before, just before me, he, running the ETH2 JavaScript kind of like ecosystem. TypeScript's really good, important, especially for developers, so that we can get it, give them strong types that they can work with at least like, pre-runtime. Obviously, JavaScript doesn't have like that nice richness. But having that so you know what you're actually interacting with and can like expect like the expected outcomes of some of your like calls. Right now, it's like not written in TypeScript. It has declaration files, and they're all broken. We've tried to fix them, and fixing them is technically a breaking change. Leaves us with our hands tied to, do we do a major bump, minor bump, or just, let's just rewrite it. And really awesome to say that like it's in the process. We're almost done with a full ES6 rewrite. Those that aren't familiar, ECMAScript 6 is like just one of the newer versions of JavaScript. It comes with a lot of just like nice to look at things like classes versus using .prototype. And basically, Web3.js as is now is written in, pre-ES5 pretty much. And it's clunky. So one of our teammates is doing an incredible job right now and almost has it fully done. And really excited once we do that, we'll be able to migrate it fully into TypeScript piece by piece. Right now, the last 2 builds of Web3.js have actually been compiling using the TypeScript compiler. They just simply don't do anything because we use regular JavaScript files. Web3.js plugins. So this is actually super awesome, really applicable to kind of what we're discussing today. We've already seen a few different projects talk about their interoperability solutions as well as their EVM compatible sides. So that was Ava Labs, Avex with the C chain, as well as Ethermint, one of ChainSafe's other projects within the Cosmos ecosystem, both touting EVM compatible chains. Really interesting piece with this Web3.js plugins is that, we see a constant need for people that are always messaging us about adding EIP supports and different sorts of, functionality that isn't really core to Web3.js, because essentially Web3.js is just the Ethereum, like it's the interface to chatting with Ethereum or otherwise one of the Ethereum nodes. And it's hard to start implementing a lot of like specific EIPs, Ethereum improvement proposals, and find features. So after we get our ES6 plugins, our ES6 stuff set up, we're implementing a plugin system so that people can then go and plug and play their own modules that don't affect, that's not leaking the provider or any keys and stuff. It allows them to just basically extend the library, give their own community and their users the fine grain, that fine grain like granularity they need to interact with it, with that, whatever it is. And it's really applicable to all these other chains because, if there's something weird that you have to do to mutate a piece, like a variable pre-flight, you can do that, which is great. So really excited for Web3.js plugins. Probably in early 2021, we'll see that rolled out. This is like a hot topic for those that actually know Web3.js will know that, build sizes in Web3.js is quite the problem. We sit at about like 100 megs, I think, if I'm not crazy. Yeah, it's like huge. With the plugin system, we're actually going to be decoupling in what will be V2, the entire kind of Web3 object, so that you're only going to be importing the core pieces of Web3, which will dramatically reduce the build sizes, which is going to be huge because now you only have to import what you actually want to use. You don't need the entire word list because you're not ever interfacing with the mnemonics. There's no reason to import the entire word list for the mnemonics. It's going to be a huge benefit. It'll make it a lot lighter. Websites won't have like a massive bundle size on them anymore. A lot of this is design stuff that was taken from Sam's original work with the original V2 design, and we're kind of just redoing it ground up based on our new changes with the ES6 stuff, which will make it a much smoother transition. What's next? Oh, and better builds. Yes. Right now, builds are produced into the dist folder and it's a disaster. We're going to automate the process a little bit, and have, just better release management in general to ensure that, you guys are getting predictable builds. I cannot speak today. And okay. So, my favorite topic, E2, for those that don't know, before Cayman took over, I was kind of like leading our Lodestar, project. And then thank God Cayman came and, did what he did, and he's been doing an incredible job. But Web3.js as of today, I believe it's coming out today, has our is going to have ETH2 support. So we built basically the first plugin. Since the plugin system is not actually there, it's a standalone packages, but it's in the main Web3 repository in GitHub. It's a fully compatible ETH2 API, and it was built really seamlessly so that we can make updates to it really easily. If you go and use it right now from the release candidate, you want to get use it right now, you can. It'll allow you to fully interface with any nodes on ETH2. So that's Lighthouse, Takeu, Prism, Lodestar, Nimbus, and pretty much any of them. It'll work as long as they're conforming to the API specification. It's super exciting because it essentially is like, the first official like Web3.js like package for ETH2. There's not a lot of data to query from the chain. Specifically, you don't get that rich like contract stuff, not just yet. As these things roll out, we're going to roll them out too, because our teams, the Web3.js team and the Lodestar team, are going to start working really close together to ensure that we're giving them production grade ready APIs and provider libraries, so that while the Lodestar team starts prototyping their light clients, we can actually start prototyping with them. That'll be great because we'll be able to drive the developer tooling for ETH2 and at the same time, making it backwards compatible to what everyone's used to within Web3.js. Super excited about that because it'll really help push, get that like foot out the door for ETH2 dev tooling and, some good grounding there, especially when the light client stuff comes to play. That's pretty much it. I didn't want to have a super long conversation with y'all. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, whether it be for Web3.js releases or anything like that, or just in general, you can find me pretty much everywhere with @GregTheGreek, Twitter, GitHub, everything. And feel free to reach out to me there. Otherwise, also want to plug, ChainSafe is hiring. These are the 4 main positions we're looking for right now. You can always go to chainsafe.io/careers to find out the latest. We're always posting new stuff. It might have changed already since we started this conference. I have no idea, but Anna could let you know. And yeah, thanks for coming out to my presentation today. Quick little update on where Web3.js is going, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. I know you're busy, so I appreciate the time. And I must say, big fan of the beard. I think we speak for everyone to keep it growing. We got one Q&A question here for you. Is it planned to provide a functional API with V2?
Is it planned to provide a functional API with V2? I'm not really sure, but what the question is, but I'll do my best to try and explain. I'll look in chat if somebody actually owns up to the question. V2 basically plans to be a major breaking change, which actually breaks out all the core packages. So right now, Web3.js is made up, the main export imports a bunch of other libraries. One of those, like a bunch of those, like Web3.js core, Web3.js like accounts, Web3.js like, provider libraries like the WebSocket, the HTTP, all those, the XML ones. It imports a bunch of these different like sub libraries. I'm just looking at time. Okay, I'm good. And basically that adds a lot of bloat. So V2 aims to actually basically take the plugin system that will just be a major bump on the 1x branch. So it'll go like 1x, 4, 5, whatever it is, and do a full breaking change to 2 that will actually basically now make all those sub packages plugins. So now a user would actually basically import, like if they ended up wanting to use the wallet functionality of Web3.js, you'd have to import that and declare it as a plugin. A lot of people don't use Web3.js for more than just like querying calls. So there's no reason for you to actually need to, install all of that with it. Hopefully drive better adoption and lighter builds. And
one last question before we move on. What was the hardest part of transitioning into maintaining Web3.js?
Sorry, what is currently still the hardest part? It is the fact that we are writing, it's like you get a bug report while we're in the middle of like trying to transition all the code over from like pre-ES5 to ES6. And it's like just trying to understand what's going on because for those that don't know, there's this like keyword in JavaScript called arguments. it's like a catch-all on the parameters, and it's used everywhere. So you can basically declare a function, sans parameters, and then throw in like an infinite amount of parameters in the function, and then you just do arguments that index whatever. That's caused us a lot of pain and suffering because like we actually don't know what's going on. So simply just like trying to actually read the code and understand what it's doing has taken a lot of time, like a lot of time. Previous maintainers, even when we read each other, like, yeah, I don't even know what that's doing. So we've got a handle on that. The ES6 refactor will hopefully fix all that because it'll make it class-based. And TypeScript will hopefully solve all that too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time, Greg. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Once again, we're hiring.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.